Imagine this. 6 American soldiers have perished, lost in Kuwait. An Iranian drone located them in darkness, directed straight to their location with remarkable precision. And now, U.S. intelligence has verified the unimaginable. Russia provided Iran the coordinates. Not a hypothesis, not a speculation, a cold documented act of treachery. One that is already transforming the balance of power across the Middle East. And one that Putin almost certainly did not anticipate coming back to affect him so quickly. Because here is the twist that nobody anticipated. The very drones that Russia showed Iran to deploy against Ukraine, the same Shahed unmanned attack drones that darkened Ukrainian skies for 4 years. Those are the drones that Ukraine has now developed a system to neutralize cheaply, precisely, at scale. And right now, hundreds of Ukrainian drone warfare specialists are stationed across 5 Gulf nations, eliminating Iranian drones from the sky for a fraction of what anyone else on Earth can provide. Putin attempted to use Iran as a weapon against Ukraine. Instead, he handed Ukraine a geopolitical opportunity that could transform the country's role in the world. This is the complete story, and it starts with a spy operation that failed spectacularly. If you are new here, welcome to Bradley Madden. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell right now because we cover the stories that truly matter. The moves happening beneath the headlines that transform the world. Now, let's dive into it. The conflict between the United States and Iran started on February 28, 2026. Within the first 24 hours, 6 U.S. service members were gone. All of them members of an Army Reserve unit stationed in Des Moines, Iowa. An Iranian drone struck their tactical operations center in Kuwait, and almost immediately a troubling question began circulating inside U.S. intelligence circles. How did Iran locate them? The answer came quickly, and it was worse than anticipated. According to reporting by The Washington Post, confirmed independently by NBC News, CNN, CBS News, and ABC News, Russia was providing Iran with satellite imagery and real-time intelligence on the positions of American troops, warships, and aircraft across the entire Middle East theater. Multiple U.S. officials speaking on condition of anonymity described the scope of the operation. One told The Washington Post that it appeared to be, in their words, a pretty comprehensive effort. Consider what that implies. Russia, which is currently in diplomatic negotiations with Washington over the future of Ukraine, was simultaneously feeding Iran the GPS coordinates of American soldiers. Not a passive act, not a historical handoff, a live ongoing intelligence pipeline directed squarely at U.S. military assets. And according to CNN, much of what Russia shared came from its sophisticated constellation of overhead satellites, some of the most advanced surveillance technology in the world, repurposed to assist Iran in targeting Americans. The Wall Street Journal added another dimension to this picture. Russia did not just share satellite imagery. According to their reporting, Moscow also provided Iran with upgraded components for Shahed drones, improving communication, navigation, and targeting. Russia even shared battlefield lessons from its drone campaign against Ukraine, guidance on optimal strike altitudes, the number of drones to launch in a single wave, how to overwhelm layered air defenses. In other words, Russia was not just a passive observer. It was Iran's operational advisor. Jim Lamson, a visiting research fellow at King's College London and former CIA analyst who specialized in the Iranian military, told the Journal that the specificity of the intelligence matters tremendously. He explained that if the satellite images Russia provided contained details about specific aircraft types, munition sites, air defense assets, and naval movements, that would represent significant intelligence value to the Iranian military. Not just coordinates on a map, a full tactical overview. Now, the Kremlin's public response was carefully crafted. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Russia is in dialogue with the Iranian leadership. And when pressed directly on whether Moscow had provided military or intelligence assistance since the conflict's start, he declined to comment. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was slightly more forthcoming. Speaking to NBC News, he confirmed that Russia and China were providing political and other assistance. And when asked about military support specifically, he said he was not going to give details about Iran's cooperation with other countries in the middle of a conflict, which is exactly what you say when the answer is yes. Now, here is where the story takes an abrupt turn because this intelligence operation did not stay classified for long, and it immediately became a pressure point in the already strained US-Russia relationship. Politico reported that Moscow proposed a quid pro quo, stop sharing intelligence with Iran, including precise coordinates of American assets in exchange for Washington cutting off the intelligence support it provides to Ukraine. From Russia's point of view, the logic makes sense. U.S. intelligence has been essential to Ukraine's ability to strike Russian refineries and military positions deep inside Russian territory. Targets Russia believed were beyond reach. One of the most significant recent examples was Ukraine's strike on Russia's largest oil port near St. Petersburg. Russia thought it was protected. U.S. intelligence helped demonstrate otherwise. That is how powerful this information-sharing relationship is. Russia wanted it stopped badly enough to offer to cease targeting Americans in exchange. Washington rejected the proposal. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, for his part, went further than any Western leader in identifying what was actually happening. In a public statement, he said, Ukraine has gathered evidence that Russia has been providing the Iranian regime with intelligence support, including the locations of U.S. military assets. He called it clearly destructive activity that must be halted. He also connected the dots that many Western capitals were reluctant to state out loud that by helping the Iranian regime survive and strike more accurately, Russia is effectively prolonging the conflict in the Middle East, just as it prolonged its own conflict in Ukraine. There must be a response, Zelensky said. But here is where it gets fascinating because while Washington debated how to respond diplomatically, and while Russia was busy playing intelligence broker for Iran, Ukraine was already acting. Before we go any further, a quick word. If you are watching Bradley Madden and you are not yet subscribed, this is the moment. We cover the developments that connect the dots between conflicts, economies, and military technology. Hit subscribe now and let's continue. The drone problem in the Middle East is not recent. What is recent is the scale. Iran's Shahed 136, the unmanned attack drone that has become the signature weapon of this conflict, struck Bahrain, Kuwait, and Dubai simultaneously on March 1st, the opening day of the conflict. A drone strike on Dubai International Airport's fuel storage on March 16th grounded commercial traffic at the world's busiest airport. Gulf states, which had long maintained high-end air defense systems, suddenly found themselves losing money to stop a threat their infrastructure was never designed for. Here's the core of the problem, explained simply. A Shahed drone costs somewhere between $30,000 and $100,000. A single PK-3 MSE interceptor missile, the advanced Patriot interceptor used to stop ballistic missiles, costs approximately $13.5 million. If you are doing the math, that is potentially hundreds of dollars spent to defend against every single dollar Iran spends on offense. And as Breaking Defense noted in their reporting, PAC-2 and PAC-3 missile production is already maxed out worldwide. Gulf states were burning through a finite, irreplaceable stockpile faster than it could be manufactured. There had to be a better solution. Admiral Brad Cooper, the commander of U.S. Central Command, was direct about this in public. Yes, a few years ago, the United States was using expensive interceptors worth millions to eliminate cheap drones. That was the old reality. The new reality, Cooper said, is that the U.S. now has capabilities that cost as little as $10,000 to neutralize Iranian drones. The math has improved dramatically, but there is still a coverage problem. Countries like Saudi Arabia are vast. You cannot build a wall of Patriot batteries around every oil facility, every military base, every port, every airport. And when a drone gets through, when all else fails, yes, an expensive missile gets used as a last resort. The math makes sense when a $50,000 drone is heading toward a refinery worth billions. But that is not a sustainable long-term approach. It is damage management. Ukraine does not have that problem anymore because Ukraine spent 4 years resolving it. When Russia first began launching Shahed drones at Ukrainian territory in late 2022, Ukraine had almost no solution. Russia bought its initial batch from Iran and began striking civilian infrastructure across the country. But over the following years, Ukraine transformed from a victim of Shahed drones into the world's leading expert in neutralizing them. That transformation did not happen through massive defense contracts or Pentagon procurement programs. It happened the way Ukrainian innovation always happens, under pressure, with limited resources, and with extraordinary outcomes. It started with cell phones. Two Ukrainian engineers working in 2022, early in the crisis, mounted a microphone and a mobile phone on a pole near a garage. The phone's microphone would listen for the distinctive acoustic signature of drone propellers. If a drone flew close enough, the system detected it and sent data to a central point. A primitive solution, but it functioned. And then it scaled. Then it, according to reporting by CEPE and confirmed by Ukrainian officials, that original proof of concept evolved into a nationwide network now known as Sky Fortress. The system has grown to encompass over 10,000 acoustic sensors, and some Ukrainian armed forces reports cite more than 15,000 deployed across Ukrainian territory with particular density along the eastern front bordering Russia. The sensors listen for drones flying at extremely low altitudes as low as 3 to 5 meters below the detection threshold of conventional radar systems. When a sensor picks up a match, it transmits data to headquarters where AI algorithms triangulate the drone's position and transmit coordinates in real time to mobile response teams on the ground. As Ukrainian news outlet UNN reported, Sky Fortress is a passive acoustic network. It emits no radar signature, cannot be disrupted by conventional electronic warfare, and does not require expensive hardware. Its genius is its simplicity and its density. You cannot hide from 10,000 microphones. Once a drone is detected and tracked, it enters the second layer of the system, the interceptors. General Oleksandr Syrsky, Ukraine's commander-in-chief, revealed in February 2026 that homegrown interceptor drones had eliminated more than 70% of Shahed drones over the Kyiv region alone. Ukrainian units conducted approximately 6,300 interceptor sorties in February, eliminating more than 1,500 Iranian-designed drones in a single month. The flagship interceptor getting the most international attention right now is called the Bullet, developed by General Cherry, one of Ukraine's largest drone producers. According to Breaking Defense, the Bullet has already neutralized several hundred Shahed drones in operational conditions. It is a fast, precision interceptor that does exactly what it sounds like. It neutralizes incoming drones through direct collision guided by a camera feed and a skilled operator. And here is the number that has the entire Gulf defense establishment paying attention. At its lowest production cost, a Bullet interceptor can be manufactured for approximately $1,000. Skyfall, another Ukrainian manufacturer, produces the 3D printed P-1 Sun interceptor, which costs about $1,000 and reaches speeds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. Skyfall's production capacity has reportedly reached up to 50,000 units per month. TAF Industries has also been fielding inquiries from the UAE about 5,000 interceptors, from Qatar about 2,000, and from Kuwait as well, according to reporting by SIPA citing TAF's founder Alexander Yakovenko. But here is the caveat that makes this whole story more complicated than a simple arms transaction. Ukraine has maintained strict export controls on domestically produced weapons since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. No Ukrainian manufacturer can legally export these interceptors without government authorization, and the Ukrainian government has not yet granted that authorization for obvious reasons. Every interceptor that leaves Ukraine is one fewer for the defense of Ukrainian cities. However, something changed recently. Skyfall made a pointed public declaration. Their manufacturing capacity has outgrown what the Ukrainian government is currently purchasing. They are ready to export. They just need approval. Wild Hornets, makers of the Bullet interceptor, said something similar. As Jonathan Lippert, president of Defense Tech for Ukraine, told SIPA, Ukrainian interceptor teams are the only ones with significant experience using drones, specifically against Shahed-type attack UVs. That experience is not something you can manufacture or procure. It has to be built through sustained combat, and Ukraine is the only country that has it. The legal framework around hardware exports is still in limbo, but Ukraine's most valuable asset, human expertise, faces no such limitation. And that is exactly what Ukraine has been deploying. On March 20th, 2026, Ukraine's Minister of Defense, Rustem Umerov, made an announcement that confirmed what had been building for weeks. Ukrainian military specialists are now operating in 5 countries: the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan. These are not just advisory visits. Umerov described active interception units deployed to protect civilian and critical infrastructure, with work already underway to expand coverage areas. He added that further steps for long-term security cooperation with each nation had been outlined during his tour of the region. 5 countries, 5 deployments in the middle of an active conflict on Ukrainian soil. As Zelensky said in a statement that has since been widely circulated, more than 10 countries have already turned to Ukraine for support in defending against Iranian Shahed drones. These are, in his words, the same attack drones that the Iranian regime supplied to Russia and trained Russians to use against the civilian population of Ukraine. Let that resonate for a moment. The drone that Russia and Iran co-developed and deployed to terrorize Ukrainian cities is the exact same threat that Ukraine now has the world's best response to. Putin helped create the weapon. Ukraine constructed the counter, and the world is now paying Ukraine to teach them how to use it. That is not just military innovation. That is strategic irony on a historic magnitude. There is one more piece of this story that deserves its own space, because it speaks to the bigger picture of what Ukraine is trying to accomplish. Zelensky has also ordered Umerov, Ukraine's military and Ukraine's foreign ministry, to assess what he described as the real readiness of countries to join international initiatives to secure the Strait of Hormuz. That is a remarkable sentence for the president of a landlocked country to compose. But remember, Ukraine is the nation that effectively neutralized roughly a third of Russia's Black Sea fleet using drone boats and improvised naval strike platforms. If Zelensky is signaling readiness to contribute to Hormuz security, it means Ukraine has thought carefully about what it actually has to offer and believes the answer is considerable. The economics, as we outlined earlier, drive everything. PC-3 MSE missiles at $13.5 million per shot against $30,000 unmanned attack drones is not a sustainable equation. The Gulf states know it. The U.S. military knows it. And Ukraine, which solved this equation under live fire over 4 years, is the only country on Earth that can offer a proven mass-produced, operationally validated solution at a price that scales. Ol Katkov, editor-in-chief of Defense Express, framed the value proposition precisely when he told Fortune, "There is a huge difference between a mass-produced system proven to work in real combat and something others only promise to develop. It is like selling the house, not just the bricks." Ukraine is selling the house. And what does Ukraine want in return? The answer is equally strategic. Ukraine has been fighting Russian ballistic missiles for 4 years. Advanced Patriot interceptors, the systems capable of stopping ballistic threats, are arguably the most critical gap in Ukrainian air defenses. Here's a statistic Zelensky shared that deserves a moment of your consideration. In 4 years of fighting Russian ballistic missiles, Ukraine has received approximately 600 advanced Patriot interceptors in total. In just 3 days of the Iran conflict, the United States and its Gulf partners used more than 800 Patriot missiles across the Middle East theater. In 3 days, the West launched more Patriot missiles than Ukraine received in 4 years. That is the asymmetry Ukraine is negotiating around. In exchange for the drone interception expertise and technology that the Gulf desperately needs right now, Ukraine is looking to close the gap in its own defenses: Patriot missiles, advanced air defense components, anything that helps stop the Russian ballistic missiles still raining down on Ukrainian cities. It is, in the most precise sense, a geopolitical exchange. Ukraine gives the world the knowledge to survive cheap drone warfare. The world gives Ukraine the tools to survive expensive missile warfare. Now there is a political wrinkle worth addressing directly. When Zelensky's drone cooperation offer became public in mid-March, Former President Trump said on Fox News Radio that the U.S. does not need Ukraine's help on drone defense. That is his prerogative. But the Pentagon has been operating on different reasoning. U.S. forces in at least 2 areas of the Middle East have requested Ukrainian expert support. According to Zelensky himself, and those requests are being reviewed in Kiev, the gap between what political leaders say publicly and what military commanders request operationally is not uncommon. What matters is what actually happens on the ground. And on the ground, Ukraine's teams are already there and already operating. The training challenge is real, though. Skyfortress is not a plug-and-play system. It requires trained drone operators. It requires communication specialists who can relay targeting data to intercept teams in real time. It requires people who understand how Shahed drones behave, their flight patterns, their acoustic signatures, how swarms are structured, how they adjust. That kind of knowledge takes time to transfer. It is why Ukraine sent instructors rather than just equipment. But the Gulf states are dealing with an active threat right now, not a future hypothetical. And as we have seen, Ukraine built all of this expertise while it was simultaneously at conflict. If anyone can accelerate the training process under pressure, it is the country that created the system under exactly those conditions. Fabian Hoffman, a doctoral researcher who has been tracking Ukraine's drone ecosystem, made a point worth remembering when he spoke to Breaking Defense. These interceptors are not high-tech, he said. And they're not supposed to be. They are supposed to be a solution that works against a specific type of threat. The beauty of the system is that it does not require exotic technology or complex supply chains. It requires discipline, organization, and the kind of hard-earned operational knowledge that only comes from doing this every night for years at scale. Ukraine has that. Nobody else does. Let's bring this full circle. Putin made a calculated wager. He attempted to weaponize the Iran conflict against both the United States and Ukraine simultaneously, pressuring Washington to cut off Ukrainian intelligence support in exchange for Moscow restraining Tehran. He leaked satellite coordinates of American soldiers to Iranian drone operators. He provided upgraded Shahed components and tactical guidance to help Iran overwhelm the defenses of U.S. allies across the Gulf. And in doing all of that, he did something else. He demonstrated to every government in the Middle East and beyond exactly why Ukraine's technology is essential. Every Iranian Shahed drone that struck a Gulf target without being intercepted was a demonstration. Every oil refinery threatened, every airport disrupted, every U.S. base struck. All of it created demand for the one thing Ukraine has mastered. Putin created the threat. Ukraine constructed the answer. And now the world is coming to Kiev. As Zelensky stated before the UK Parliament on March 17th, Ukraine's drone interception knowledge is, in his words, largely irreplaceable. 3 years of absorbing more than 57,000 Shahed-type strikes built something that no procurement contract can produce from scratch. The Gulf states understand that now. The United States military understands that now even European countries with forces in the region have submitted requests to Kiev. Ukraine entered this conflict as a country fighting for its survival. It is emerging as a defense technology power that the world cannot afford to overlook. We will, of course, keep you updated as this story continues to develop, and it will. The export authorization decision in Kiev, the formal security agreements being shaped with Gulf states, the ongoing diplomatic negotiations between Washington, Moscow, and Kiev. All of it is moving fast, and all of it matters. If you found this analysis worthwhile, now is the perfect time to subscribe to Bradley Madden if you have not already done so. Hit the subscribe button, enable your notifications, and share this video with someone who is trying to understand what is truly happening in the world right now. This is the military and geopolitical analysis that cuts through the noise, and we are just getting started. Thanks for watching.